What's up, YouTube? So before we get started with this video, on first take, they're going to be talking about what quarterback is going to be under the most pressure this year, Jared Goff or Jimmy Garoppolo. So see what they have to say about that.
Who is under the most pressure in that division?
I'm going to say Jimmy Garoppolo. That's how I'm going to go to porn star Jimmy. I think that's just the way to go. First of all, the man's got his money. $137 million, $72 million guaranteed after a 7-0 start in his professional career as a starter, as a starting quarterback. Obviously, 2 with New England, the other 5 with San Francisco, who were in desperate need of a quarterback. And
mind you, Jimmy has never played in more than 6 games per season. Last year, he only played in 3 games. He threw 5 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, and he got $72 million guaranteed. I mean, must be nice. I can't hate on him. He's getting his money, but must be nice. So let's continue.
Belichick gave Jimmy Garoppolo away to Kyle Shanahan and those boys for a box of cookies, basically. And so now he's in San Francisco, and even though it was his first year, only 2.5 games, got injured in game 3, his durability is a question mark. And we can sit up there and act like there's no pressure, but there is pressure. If there's pressure on Carson Wentz, there should be pressure on Jimmy G, because we saw Carson Wentz perform. We saw him go 11-2 as a starter a couple of years ago and be arguably a leading candidate for league MVP honors before he went down. And then he came back last year, and he was only 5-6 as a starter, but more importantly, he got hurt. And Nick Foles delivered the goods, winning the Super Bowl the previous year, and then getting them to the playoffs and winning a playoff victory over Chicago. What did we say about Carson Wentz, even though we saw that he could ball and we saw that he could play? His durability is a question mark. Well, who the hell is Jimmy G to bypass that kind of stipulation? We're looking at a guy in Jimmy G that is clearly the face of the franchise. By the way, a franchise that once had Joe Montana quarterbacking it, a franchise that once had Steve Young quarterbacking it. And now you are that guy, even though Colin Kaepernick was there and guided them to a Super Bowl and deserves a boatload of credit. It was his athleticism, his ability to run with the football, not just throw it. He wasn't the passer that Montana and Young was, and Jimmy G is perceived to be. So when I look at him, and you got a cat like George Kittle, who's obviously one of the better tight ends in football, you're starting a rookie in this kid Deebo Samuel. Let's see how that works out. Dante Pettis and stuff like that. Even though there's questions about the personnel, in the end, you're looking at Jimmy G, and you're saying the San Francisco 49ers were here when he arrived at that 5-0 start, Max, and people are expecting, if the 5-0 start had never arrived, that would be different. But because they won those 5 games, and that got him his money, they're going to be like, okay, where's the production now?
So I think all the pressure definitely has to be on Jimmy Garoppolo. Like I said, he's never played in more than 6 games each of his seasons. Last year, he only played in 3. And as far as Carson Wentz, I mean, we know it's in him to get to the Super Bowl. Granted, he didn't play in the Super Bowl. Nick Foles won a Super Bowl for the Eagles. But still, we know it's in Carson Wentz to get to the playoffs and to get to the Super Bowl. And as far as Jared Goff, we know he can get to the Super Bowl because he was there last year. I don't care if he had a bad game. Some quarterbacks never make it to the Super Bowl. And he made it there, what was like 23 years old? He made it to the Super Bowl already. He's going to have a nice, long career, and he's already been to the Super Bowl. Granted, he didn't have the best of games, but, I mean, geez, just be happy that you got there with the, what was it, 2nd or 3rd year? Just be happy that he got there. So I don't think fans are really going to be going too crazy or putting all this pressure on Jared Goff like he hasn't proved himself. He got you guys to the Super Bowl last year. Now, as far as Jimmy Garoppolo, he definitely has something to prove because we don't even know if he can make it play out a whole season. We don't even know if he can play a whole season, let alone make the playoffs or get to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. So if anybody has anything to prove, it has to be Jimmy Garoppolo because we have no clue. We don't even know if he can make it through a whole season. Jared Goff and Carson Wentz, they're good in my book. Both of those guys been in Super Bowls. They proved it. They just have to do it again. It's all on Jimmy Garoppolo. So let's continue.
If there's pressure on Carson Wentz, there's pressure on who?
Jimmy G.
Jared Goff.
Okay.
There are some quarterbacks who are linked, whether they got taken #1 in consecutive years or were rivals in college or were asked who's the best in college, who would be the best pro, or whether they were taken in the same year 1 and 2. So Mariota and Winston are linked.
Okay.
To me, Luck and Cam were always linked consecutive years. Jared Goff and Carson Wentz are linked 1 and 2. If there's pressure on Carson Wentz, there's certainly pressure on Jared Goff. Let's look at the division, quarterback by quarterback. Kyler Murray is playing for the worst team in football. That's why he was the #1 overall draft pick. He's not expected to win a lot. He's expected just to show he can be an NFL quarterback as a rookie. I believe he'll do that. There's some pressure there, no doubt. Russell Wilson is excellent year in and year out as a future Hall of Famer. He's in his prime. His team is coming around again, and he got paid. You know what? Jimmy G got paid. He did. Is there pressure with that? Sure, but he made his money. Jared Goff, on the other hand, Carson Wentz got his contract. Where's Jared Goff's contract? Jared Goff, on the other hand, is on a team with Super Bowl aspirations. They just made it there last year. And his extremely poor play, especially when they needed it most in that Super Bowl, was one of the reasons they lost and one of the reasons it was the lowest scoring Super Bowl in the history of the NFL.
But they got there.
They got there, but...
Exactly, they got there. And it was the lowest scoring Super Bowl because defense was putting in work. That's what it is. And who cares if Jared Goff didn't have the best of games in the Super Bowl? In the Super Bowl. The guy was, 23 years old? He's already been to the Super Bowl, and he just so happened to get beat by the GOAT, Tom Brady? And you want to complain about that? I mean, you got to be kidding me. I must be missing something. Because I'm pretty sure LA fans are happy just to have gotten to the Super Bowl. And so I don't think that Jared Goff has any more pressure, or definitely shouldn't have any more pressure than what Jimmy Garoppolo should have. Because the man's proved himself. And it's the same thing with Carson Wentz. Both of those guys have been to Super Bowls at 23 years old? I mean, you got to be kidding. I don't know where all this hate comes from for Jared Goff. Like, they're acting like he just barely broke 500 last year or didn't even break 500. He went to the Super Bowl. He went to, what more do you want? What more do you want him to do? It just doesn't make sense. But Jimmy Garoppolo gets a pass? Like, look, man, how long have you been into the league? How long have you been in the league? Granted, you backed up Tom Brady, but you haven't played in more than 6 games in either every season that you played. Last year, you only played in 3. We don't even know if this guy can make it throughout the whole season, let alone the playoffs and the Super Bowls and all that. So if anybody has anything to prove, it has to be Jimmy Garoppolo. If anybody has nothing to prove, it'd have to be Jared Goff. He just went to the Super Bowl last year. I mean, what more do you want? What more is he supposed to do? So I don't know. Let's continue.
He wasn't the only MVP candidate during the regular season. He had Todd Gurley, 17 touchdowns, led the league for the second consecutive year. And Aaron Donald, and people are asking, is Aaron Donald the best defensive lineman ever? And is in his prime, and his numbers, according to all the analytics, are lapping the field. So it's not like Jared Goff doesn't have a ton of help. He does. They're loaded. They have the coach. They have the defense. They have the offensive weapons. They have the experience. Goff's got to get it done. The goals are set higher for the team, and he hasn't gotten paid yet.
Okay.
He's got the most pressure.
Here's where
I don't know where Max is coming up with this, Jared Goff's got to get it done. The last game I saw Jared Goff play in, that was an official game, was the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl. I mean, what more do you want from this guy? What more do you want? It's not like they didn't break 500 last year. He went and did as good as you could possibly be, but lost in the Super Bowl to Tom Brady, arguably the GOAT. So I don't understand where all this pressure is coming from for Jared Goff, but you don't want to say anything to Jimmy Garoppolo? He got a $72 million contract. I mean, and he hasn't played in more than 6 games in 7 years, more than 6 games per year. So he can't even make it through almost half the season. Let's see if he can make it past half the season, and then maybe we can start talking about other stuff. But we don't even know if he can do that. But you want to jump on a guy that went to the Super Bowl last year? But Jimmy Garoppolo gets a pass and hasn't played in more than 6 games per season. I must be missing something. But let's continue.
Agreed with you. And that's a good argument, but this is the reason why I didn't pick Goff. Because Goff could have an excellent season, and they could still lose, Max. The fact of the matter is you've got several teams within the NFC conference that are viable candidates for NFC championship stature. You've got New Orleans, you've got Atlanta. Some people have said Carolina. Aaron Rodgers is coming back. Chicago, get a kicker, and you'll be all right. Philadelphia, Dallas, and within the same division, we can never sleep on Seattle because of Russell Wilson, who's the highest paid quarterback in football this upcoming season at $35 million. So I look at it from the standpoint that even though Jared Goff has to play, you can conceivably conjure up reasons as to why the Rams would fall, even if he excels. In the case of Jared Goff, we're not even expecting you to win as a football team, but what we're also not expecting...
Oh, Jimmy G.
I apologize, Jimmy Garoppolo. What we're not expecting from him, listen, you could lose or you could win, but the one thing you can't do is stink. See, with Jared Goff, the expectation is to win. That's true. But you got competition. In the case of San Francisco, we're literally saying we don't really expect much from this team, but we expect something from you, Jimmy G.
Gotta stay on the field, you gotta be good.
You gotta stay on the field, you gotta be good.
Yeah, so again, I don't understand. I'm looking at it a different way than what these guys looking at. Look, Jared Goff, like I said, the last game he played in was the Super Bowl. And he just got beat by Tom Brady, arguably the GOAT. So I don't know what more he has to do to show and prove that. I mean, he can barely make the playoffs this coming up season, and I would still be happy with the Jared Goff. I mean, he went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. So, I mean, you know what's in him. But Jimmy Garoppolo somehow gets a pass and hasn't even been able to make a pass of playing a full season. I don't understand it. I just don't understand the logic. Like I said, Carson Wentz and Jared Goff have both gone to the Super Bowl. Obviously, Nick Foles won the Super Bowl, but Carson Wentz got them there. And Jared Goff just went to Super Bowl. I don't understand why you guys are harping on him and dumping him. I'm sure you might have high expectations, but he met them last year. He went to the Super Bowl last year. So I don't understand. Like I said, he could have a bad year this year. The fact is, he went to the Super Bowl. And there's some quarterbacks that never make it to the Super Bowl. And their fans are just happy with that guy. Never make it to the Super Bowl and happy. But this guy went to the Super Bowl last year, and you want to talk about, well, he didn't have a good game during the Super Bowl. The guy's, 23 years old? You should be happy he even went to the Super Bowl. So, I don't know. Let's keep going.
Pressure at the position. There's pressure on all these quarterbacks. There's pressure on all the quarterbacks in the NFC West, especially, I think. You could pick a couple other divisions like that. Here's the difference with Jared Goff. We know he's excellent during the regular season. In the moment of truth, how is he going to perform? I could give you quarterbacks who never got as far as Jared Goff already has gotten, right? Regular season play or taking a team to the Super Bowl or contributed to a Super Bowl appearance. But all of them at critical moments in their careers, it could have gone one way or another, and they fell out of the elite, right? Or consideration. Matthew Stafford, Andy Dalton, Kirk Cousins. Jared Goff has already done more in certain respects than those guys, but he has a chance to really join the elite. When we talk about Patrick Mahomes and guys like that, when you watch him on the field regular season, there's no reason he shouldn't be in those conversations.
But my response to you is
You know, Max, I mean, I don't know what your deal is, but the man went to the Super Bowl last year. So he didn't have a good game in the Super Bowl. You should just be happy. LA should be just happy that they got their team back. And they've only been back in LA for, 3 or 4 years? This fourth year coming up. And in that amount of time, they've already gone to Super Bowl with, the second or third year quarterback who's only 23 years old. And you went to Super Bowl and you want to rag on him because he didn't have the best of games against arguably the GOAT, Tom Brady. I mean, you talk about high expectations. What more do you want from this guy? Jesus Christ. But Jimmy Garoppolo gets a pass. Not only that, he gets $72 million straight up. And we don't expect that much from you. But if he could just play hard, Jimmy Garoppolo would be just fine. But Jared Goff, that just went to the Super Bowl last year, we're going to need a little bit more from you, okay? We need you to go to the Super Bowl again this year. And this time we need you to beat the GOAT, Tom Brady, again, okay? That's the type of pressure we're putting on you, okay? Man, I tell you, it just doesn't make sense. So let's continue.
Have no problem with those arguments, but all of those things could ring true for Jared Goff, and they could still lose. And I'm saying in the case of Jimmy G, we're simply asking you to be worthy of the money you received. Period. Just be worthy of it. Be worthy of it. Make news for something other than Hollywood.
Would you rather
Make news for something other than that.
Would you rather be the guy under pressure to show that you deserve the money you're already paid, or would you rather be the guy under pressure who has